I'll call the regular business meeting to order. Laura Lee, please call the roll.
Stu Boyd.
Here.
Denise Chapman. Amy Doran. Here. Dawn Kirk.
Here.
Barbara Cruz. Alexandra Lessem.
Here.
Nancy Rumfeld.
Here.
Nancy, will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please? And I think we all definitely appreciate the young voices that joined us in the Pledge of Allegiance, don't we? Denise, will you read the mission statement, please?
The Thompson School District will be a school district that empowers, challenges, and inspires students, faculty, staff, parents, school leaders, and community members to learn, achieve, and excel.
Thank you, Denise. The next item on the agenda is the adoption of the agenda. Could I have a motion, please, to approve the agenda as presented?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second it.
Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to the vote. Laura Lee?
Stu Boyd.
Aye.
Denise Chapman.
Aye.
Amy Doran.
Aye.
Dawn Kirk.
Aye.
Barbara Cruz. Alexandra Lessem.
Aye.
Nancy Rumfeld.
Aye.
The agenda is approved. Moving on to the next item, which is the approval of two different sets of minutes. We'll begin with the approval of minutes from our January 17th, 2024 meeting. And I will ask first if there are any changes to be made to the minutes. Hearing none, is there a motion to accept those minutes?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? We'll proceed to the vote then. Laura Lee?
Stu Boyd.
Aye.
Denise Chapman. Amy Doran.
Aye.
Dawn Kirk.
Aye.
Barbara Cruz. Alexandra Lessem.
Aye.
Nancy Rumfeld.
Aye.
The minutes of the January 17th, 2024 meeting are approved. The second set of minutes that we need to approve is from our February 7th, 2024 study session. Are there any changes to those minutes? Hearing none, I need a motion to approve.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, let's proceed to the vote. Laura Lee?
Stu Boyd.
Aye.
Denise Chapman.
Aye.
Amy Doran.
Aye.
Dawn Kirk.
Aye.
Barbara Cruz. Alexandra Lessem.
Aye.
Nancy Rumfeld.
Aye.
The minutes of the February 7th, 2024 study session are approved. The next item on the agenda is public participation, and I'll turn the floor over to Superintendent Schaefer.
Good evening, Vice President Boyd and members of the Board of Education. It is time for a review of some of the exciting events that have happened in our district over the past several weeks. And I want to open first talking about our student advisory meetings. This week, our high school, middle school, and elementary student advisory groups met and provided myself and other district leaders with valuable insight into the student experience here in Thompson School District, along with ways in which we can enhance the experience for each individual. I'm very grateful for their time and service to our district. I will note that board members Stu Boyd and Nancy Rumfeld attended a few of those sessions as well. We appreciate your attendance. On January 30th, the City of Loveland's 2024 Martin Luther King Jr. Day commemoration program was held after the previous event had to be rescheduled due to weather. This 30-plus year tradition exemplifies the strength of community partnerships and the importance of family, school, and community engagement. So this evening, seated among us are a number of students who who participated in the MLK Junior ceremony. They either created some amazing artwork or wrote some just very powerful pieces of writing, be it poetry or other essays. A lot of these are on display in the back table over there, and I would invite the board to peruse. We're going to hopefully be able to keep that installation up for a little bit so that members of the community as well as the board can view them. But what I'd like to do at this time is recognize the students who are here who participated in the MLK Junior ceremony. So I'm going to ask you to please stand, and then I'm going to ask you to come forward because we'd love to take a picture with you. So if you are one of those amazing kids, if you would please come forward. And board members, I'd love to do a picture with this talented group.
You want to get up? Okay, look right here. On 3. 1, 2, 3. Thanks.
Again, special thank you to the students for joining us, especially on a school night, and again, the work back there is spectacular. Over the past month, Chief Academic Officer Dr. Melissa Schneider and myself have traveled to schools throughout the district, spending time in classrooms and visiting with students, teachers, and staff. It's always fun getting a firsthand look at the educational activities within our schools, and we are grateful to the staff for hosting us. February 5th through the 9th was designated as National School Counseling Week, and as part of the commemoration, we recognized our amazing team members who play a critical and necessary role in the development and lives of our students. We are so grateful for their tireless efforts and contributions. On January 27th, Thompson School District hosted its 27th annual District Spelling Bee, a contest that is designed for elementary and middle school students. A total of 29 students attended this year's event, which is always a highlight of our school year. Congratulations to Sarah Freeman from Ivy Stockwell Elementary, who captured the top prize at the elementary level, as well as Zachary Kavanaugh from Walt Clark Middle School, who won first place in the middle school competition. Congratulations to the participants and winners of the elementary and secondary chess tournaments. Over 110 students in grades K through 5 competed in 410 games of chess throughout the morning. At the secondary level, over 80 students registered, with each individual playing 4 rounds in the tournament. On January 31st, Thompson Valley High School played host to a unified basketball game between Thompson Valley High School and Berthoud High School. It was a tremendous game filled with fun for all. Unified Sports joins people with and without disabilities on the same team. It was inspired by a simple principle that training together and playing together is a quick path to friendship and understanding. Congratulations to all of our athletes on a fantastic game. On February 7th, Thompson School District hosted a special breakfast for our Loveland Police Department and Larimer County Sheriff's Office resource officers, as well as I believe we had Johnstown was present as well, in honor of National School Resource Officer Appreciation Day. Our SROs and law enforcement partners make a huge difference in our schools, and we greatly appreciate all that they do each day for our students, families, staff, and community members. Finally, congratulations to Loveland High School seniors Kennedy Lane and Peyton Hendricks. And actually, Kennedy, I think you're with us this evening. Kennedy, would you stand while I say some nice things about you? Kennedy? Uh-oh. Maybe not. I'm still going to say nice things about her, but so both Kennedy Lane and Peyton Hendricks were selected as Daniel Scholar finalists. The Daniels program offers a comprehensive 4-year college scholarship that provides financial and personal support focused on helping Daniels scholars to succeed in college and life. This is a remarkable achievement for these students. We are extremely proud of them. This is a very big deal. We're very proud of these students. We're proud of all of our students, but these 2 students, Daniels finalists, is a big deal, so we congratulate them. So I next want to move forward. As you know, each month we recognize members from our staff as part of the Top of Thompson Awards. These are peer-nominated awards that we offer for both classified license and APT. We also have what's called the Community Champion Award. That is a new award that we started this year that recognizes a special community organization, nonprofit, or business entity that also supports our schools. So this evening we have everyone. So we have all the nominators and nominees, which is very exciting. That means I don't need to go to the podium. And so we're going to first start with classified. And so I'm going to invite Natasha Sanchez. Natasha is a works for nutrition services at Lucille Irwin Middle School, and Natasha was nominated by Bree Bell. So if you would please come forward to the podium, and Bree will let you read your words for Natasha, and then there's a plaque that we'd like you to give, please.
Thank you. I'm like so excited.
Oh, here you go. If you need a copy, here you go.
That would be fantastic. Thank you so much.
Yep.
Okay. The care and dedication Natasha has displayed over the years at LEMS is unmatchable. She's always willing to jump in or lend a helping hand without being asked. Staff know they can count on her always. Even more so, Natasha is here for students. She's always smiling and positive in her interactions with students at lunch. She even walks around after each student has made it through the lunch line to check on students individually. She makes sure everyone has food, asks about their day, and offers support wherever it's needed. She is a master at creating and maintaining relationships with students, creating a safe space at school. Students are always inviting Natasha to watch at games, concerts, plays, etc. It's this level of commitment to our students that sets Natasha apart.
Congratulations. Awesome. Thanks, Natasha. Next, we'd like to invite, this is for licensed, Kate Trash. She's a teacher at Mountain View High School, and Kate was nominated by Principal Marky Ramirez.
All right, I am pleased to nominate Kate for the Top of Thompson Award. Kate has demonstrated exceptional dedication and proficiency in her role as an educator, particularly in working with struggling students. Kate's ability to make English and reading relevant and exciting has a transformative impact on a group of disengaged 10th grade boys who historically faced challenges in previous classes. Under her guidance, these students not only become fully engaged, but also experience success in her classes. What sets Kate apart is her student-centered approach. She consistently focuses on implementing strategies tailored to meet the unique needs of her students. By incorporating student interests and choice into her classroom, she ensures that not only their engagement in instruction, but also in various activities. In addition, Kate has implemented a space designed for students facing mental or emotional struggle, which includes manipulatives, puzzles, coloring, and other items designed to help students regulate and integrate back into the class activity. This initiative, introduced during the current school year as a result of her participation in professional development through our PBIS implementation team, allows students a brief academic break while remaining an integral part of the classroom community. One of Kate's notable strengths is her commitment to continuous learning. She fearlessly embraces new ideas and strategies in her classroom, further enhancing her effectiveness as an educator. Her students consistently feel valued and cared for in her class, fostering a positive and respectful classroom community. Kate's impact extends beyond her students to her peers who hold her in the highest regard. She is a remarkable teacher who embodies the qualities deserving of this award. I wholeheartedly endorse Kate for this honor.
Congrats, Kate. Thank you. We move on to our APT, which is our administrator. And this month, we are recognizing Brandy Greaves, who is the principal at Turner Middle School. And Brandy was nominated by Kiefer Lanham.
Here you go.
I did not write enough here. I have never worked on a team that functions as a team as well as I do here at Turner. Brandy hires impeccably well. Supports everyone completely and truly listens to input rather than ask for input out of obligation. She creates both a safe environment to share ideas and leads by getting in the weeds when necessary. I believe she is the reason Turner is on a performance plan and not an improvement plan within the district. Brandy does the little things that allow us to make the big difference for our students. I'd like to add, I have a morbid curiosity with organizational development from my previous life in the corporate world. I would say, Brandy, you do not do check the box kind of leadership. I have never seen systems incorporated with so much soul. So it is an honor to work with you.
Congratulations, Brandy. Finally, we move on to our Community Champion Award. This evening, we are going to hear from Teresa Ann McCarthy. Teresa nominated Pizza Street for the Community Champion. So if you can come forward, please.
All right. Thank you. This is Brian Gooden. He is the owner of Pizza Street here in Loveland. And Brian Gooden, owner of Pizza Street, has been a champion in celebrating our staff and school community for 12 years. Each year, Mr. Gooden donates certificates to our Student Council Staff Appreciation Raffle, and his donations are always generous and among the favorite prizes at our event each spring. Mr. Gooden has also supported NJHS and Student Council by offering deep discounts on pizza for school dances and other fundraisers. Pizza Street has prepared as many as 35 pizzas for these events, which takes extra staff and planning on his end. Mr. Gooden never hesitates to offer his support of these events, right down to making sure the pizzas are carefully sliced to make sure the portions are even. In addition, the staff at Pizza Street has donated toward meal trains on 2 separate occasions when one of our staff members have experienced a significant loss and were in need of a meal in a very short period of time. While it may not seem like much, Brian Gooden and his staff at Pizza Street are small business heroes to us here at Lucille Irwin Middle School. His generous nature and willingness to support staff and students over the years has been a tremendous gift. It's amazing how little acts of kindness can make such a huge impact. Small business owners may not have the overhead and ability to make large monetary donations, but they make thoughtful contributions in so many other ways. I feel honored and blessed to have had this longstanding partnership with Pizza Street, and I feel Mr. Brian Gooden and his staff deserve the Community Champion Award for the Thompson School District.
So Brian, don't go too far. We'd like to invite our 3 Top of Thompson Award winners, as well as Brian, if we could take a picture with you guys and the Board of Education would be great.
All right. Here we go. On 3. 1, 2, 3. Good. Thank you.
Next, I would like to introduce Executive Director of Elementary Schools, Sarah Rasmussen. As you know, each month we honor and showcase, actually twice a month, we showcase our schools here in the district. And so tonight, Sarah's going to introduce one of our elementary schools.
Good evening, Dr. Schaefer, members of the board, Sarah Rasmussen, Executive Director of Elementary Schools. And I have the privilege of introducing Truscott Elementary to you this evening. And Truscott Elementary is one of our dual language immersion schools, and so you'll have an opportunity to experience a little bit of that. They're also a recent recipient of the Governor's Distinguished Improvement Award. So I am going to turn it over to Mrs. Karen Hanford, principal at Truscott Elementary.
Good evening, members of the board. Dr. Schaefer, thank you so much for having us. Buenos noches. We are a Spanish dual language immersion school, and I am not going to take very much time because I want you to hear our incredible students that are so brave to come here today and be presenting to you in English and Spanish. We have a great presentation ready for you. If you do not know about our program, our kids learn half their day in English, half their day in Spanish. Does not matter what their home language is. So actually one of our students tonight, her home language is Basque. So she came to our school at the beginning of the school year and is now learning English and Spanish. So incredible that they are here and brave to do this. We're so proud of the work that's happening at our school. And so I'm going to introduce my two teachers that are up here with me. A part of our amazing team, this is Isis Garcia, our second grade Spanish teacher, and Danielle Garcia, who is our fourth grade Spanish teacher. And I'm going to let them introduce their students. So thank you for your time tonight.
Good evening, everyone. I'm here to present two second grade students from Truscott, and they have worked on a project of Martin Luther King Jr.
Hello, my name is Evangeline Ann Lilly. My first language is English. Hola, mi nombre es Alona Guerrero Lopez, and my first language is Spanish. Martin Luther King Jr. was born on January 15 in 1929 in Atlanta, Georgia, and this is the house where Martin Luther King Jr. was actually born. And this picture here, one of my classmates called Pierce drew it. En 1953, Martin Luther King Jr. se casó con Coretta Scott. In 1963, Martin Luther King Jr. gave his famous speech, I Have a Dream. En 1964, Martin Luther King Jr. recibió el Premio Nobel de Paz. Martin Luther King Jr. died in Memphis in 1968. These are some words that remind us of Martin Luther King Jr. Libertad, freedom, amistad, friendship, esperanza, hope. Awesome words. The time is always right to do what's right.
Buenas noches. No les voy a presentar porque son ellos los que se van a presentar a sí mismos, así que ellos empiezan.
Mi nombre es Max, yo tengo 10 años. Es mi quinto año en Truscott. Estoy en cuarto grado. Mi primer lenguaje es inglés.
My name is Aiden. I'm in 4th grade. It's my first language. My first language is Basque, then Spanish, and now I'm learning English. ¿Por qué te gusta ir a la escuela de Truscott?
Me gusta ir a la escuela de Truscott porque aprendo 2 idiomas y tengo muchos amigos. What has been your biggest accomplishment when you started at Truscott?
I had to learn English and I had to make new friends. ¿Qué te gusta más de cuarto grado?
Ciencias porque hacemos muchos experimentos. Un experimento muy interesante fue adquirir un fósil. Me gustan los fósiles. Which is your favorite subject and why?
I really like art because it's my favorite thing to do. The project that I enjoyed the most was trying a dragon eye. ¿Qué es lo más interesante que has aprendido en cuarto grado?
Lo más interesante fue el experimento de terrario. Fue al jardín de la escuela de Truscott y buscar insectos y plantas. What do you like most about Colorado?
Here I can go to gymnastics because in Spain, in my town, there were no gymnastics. My favorite thing to do in Colorado is to play with my Swiss dogs.
So as you can see, in a very short period of time, our kids have learned either English or Spanish and have become, just have a life skill that they will be able to take on with them wherever they go in this world. So we're very proud of them, and thank you again for your time.
So we would love to do a picture with staff as well as the students, if you could come forward.
Okay. On 3. 1, 2, 3. Great. Thank you.
One more presentation. I'm going to ask Mary Lane to come forward. Mary is being recommended this evening as the next principal of Walt Clark Middle School. So I'd like Mary to come forward. I'm going to say some things about her and then give her a chance to say some things to you. We are excited to recommend Miss Mary Lane as the next principal of Walt Clark Middle School. Miss Lane joined Thompson School District in 2022 as an assistant principal at Mountain View High School. During her 2 years there, Mary has gained experience in administrative duties, coordinating state-level assessments, and leading professional development within Mountain View to foster a culture of continuous improvement and growth for staff and students. Prior to coming to TSD, Mary spent 5 years at Kelly Walsh High School in Casper, Wyoming. As a teacher on special assignment, Mary worked directly with the administrative team and at-risk student populations to increase graduation rates, facilitated a Success Academy credit recovery program, which worked with standards and curriculum across all content areas. She also taught 10th and 11th grade English and was the 10th grade professional learning community co-lead, which included assessment planning and implementation. Prior to her time at Kelly Walsh, Mary spent 9 years as a high school English teacher at Central High School in Cheyenne, teaching 10th through 12th grade. She also served as Student Senate Council sponsor. Mary was also the Garup University of Wyoming ACT Teacher Trainer Program Coordinator Consultant, a role she held for 8 years while simultaneously teaching. Here, Mary created curriculum and presented 10-hour reading, writing, and English ACT alignment workshops. This included hiring and supervision of science and math trainers, mandatory district-wide training and voluntary statewide summer training, and serving as the University of Wyoming credit coordinator. Mary holds a bachelor's in secondary English education and a master's in curriculum studies from University of Northern Colorado, where she also received her educational specialist degree with a K-12 principal endorsement. It's Mary's commitment to education and both student success and growth that makes her the perfect person for this position. Mary, we're excited to have you in this new role. Congratulations.
Thank you, everyone. I'm humbled and excited about this new opportunity in Thompson School District, and I look forward to serving and leading the Walt Clark community of teachers, parents, and students to educational excellence. Thank you.
Before we move to the board committee reports, let me just say that don't we have awesome students and staff in the Thompson School District? Will you join me in another round of applause? All right, the next item on the agenda is board committee reports. We all attend numerous meetings and events each month. I've asked each board member to briefly share about one or two experiences that they may have had within the last few weeks, maybe about a board meeting, a committee meeting, an event they've attended, etc. And Dawn, how about if I start down here with you?
So I'll speak to something that actually you guys all get to see for yourself tonight, which is the MLK Junior event. It was really fantastic that we had a chance to reschedule and get to hear from our students who spent so much time creating such powerful artwork and poetry for us. We also got to see some amazing dancers, and we have some great community partners who helped pull that event together twice, actually, as it got rescheduled. And sadly, that evening, we also had the unified game that I couldn't make. So I'm really glad that we were able to celebrate at least one thing that evening.
All right, thank you. Amy?
So I am the board member for the Early Childhood Partner in Education. We had our meeting, I believe it was the 13th, and one thing that was fascinating to learn about was the social emotional learning for our early childhood education. That was our training. It was just fascinating. The curriculum that they use is the second step social emotional curriculum. The teachers are all trained in it. And, you know, you can, I mean, it all needs to start right at the preschool level. And then we are, that goes into the elementary, middle, and then high school with the elementary or early childhood level going into the PBIS with our elementary students. But, you know, just again, the tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. So it was just really fascinating to learn about that with our early childhood education. So thank you.
All right, thank you. I'll wrap up this part of the agenda. So Nancy, I'll move down to you.
For my board report, what I like to do as a board member is go around and talk to different groups, especially different groups where I might hear people that have a differing view of life than me. And this last month, I've been to some of the staff meetings, different study sessions, town hall, just various community events. And the thing that I heard the most throughout the school district is you hear a very common theme. I hear from teachers, which was really hard to hear them talk about being punched or chairs thrown in the classroom. I've also listened to students talk about how they're afraid to go to the bathroom and that they are not fond of the drugs that are in the schools. I've heard administrators feel like frustrated because their hands are tied, and I've listened to parents who are also frustrated, and it just seems like we've all become divided into our little silos as I'm out and about in the community. And I worry that this is why we don't talk about the things that we really need to talk about that are happening. We can still acknowledge the great things that happen in this district, but we should still be able to learn how to talk about what we need to focus and fix on. And I worry that this intense push that I hear for the inclusiveness culture is what's helping to create more separation, because it seems like there's no teaching of how to cope with differences, with diversity. You either conform or you're shamed. And so what's happening, we're all going into our little corners and being silent. And I just think that we need to find a way to fix that. And that's really what I took away from when I did this last month.
Alexandra?
Hi, so I have recently become the board representative on the Joint Insurance Committee, is that right? Joint Insurance Committee, JIC. And we've been to 2 meetings so far, and it's been very interesting. I am, in my day job, a family nurse practitioner, so know a lot about healthcare and the healthcare providing part, but not necessarily a lot about the insurance and behind the scenes part. So it's been very interesting to learn about that and to learn about how insurance is managed for the district. And some of you may know this, some of you may not, but our insurance comes through being part of what's called CEBT, which I think stands for Colorado Employee Benefit Trust. I might be wrong, but I think that's what it stands for. But basically is a group of multiple different employers within the state of Colorado. Many are school districts, but others are public governments or just other, mostly nonprofit employers within the state of Colorado that have all joined together to join this trust in order to provide healthcare benefits for their employees. And so we've had at the meetings representatives from the people who manage that trust come and talk to us about, the most recent meeting was about the recommended renewal rates for this upcoming year, which will go from July through June. And it was through being part of this huge trust, we're able to keep the insurance rates quite a bit lower and offer a lot more than they certainly would be if we were doing it all by ourselves. And so that was interesting to hear about, and just sort of changes in the industry and how they look at all the different ins and outs to calculate what insurance rates will be and how much they need to go up based on how much they've been used, and so on and so forth. So it's just been very, very fascinating, and I've enjoyed being a part of it and learning more, and look forward to continuing.
Thank you. Denise?
So this period I attended the Unified game, and it was one of those rare events where I could actually watch my child play and be doing board work. So that was nice. But those, and I'm missing one tonight, but it's just such an infectious sort of joy that comes out of the Unified program. And I have seen it grow over the 3 years that my daughters played. And I really hope that Thompson continues to expand to other sports. I know there was one cheerleader there as well that the Thompson team pulled in. And the more that we can do that and making sure that all students, feel that pride of sinking the winning basket or being there to cheer or just having other students there supporting them, it's very powerful. And then also went to one of the high school advisory committees earlier in the month, and it was just fascinating to sit and watch kids solving problems and talking about what's going on in their school. And, I have a lot of hope after, hearing, what's important to them and, the different experiences at each of the schools and talking about what they can leverage and share and what else we need to be doing as an organization. And then finally, I went with Mike's Thompson Advisory Communications Advisory Board and got to see a tour of the new and improved website. The team there has been working very hard to make it much more accessible. There are requirements around accessibility, and there's been a ton of work going on to make sure that we're meeting that, the level of where we need to be. And then also just, to understand how do we get information out? So in terms of social media, the pictures we're taking tonight, they're going to be posted here soon. How do all these things happen so that people learn about what's going on in the district and what are the tools and techniques we're using? So that was fascinating, and lots of opportunities to use those channels, whether it be the website or the social channels. And they even print stuff still too. It was very educational for me.
All right. I had several opportunities over the last few weeks to hang out with TSD kids in a variety of places and a variety of ways. Dr. Schaefer mentioned that Nancy and I attended the middle school superintendent's advisory council meeting yesterday. I attended the high school student advisory council meeting today. I want to say hats off to our chief academic officer, Dr. Melissa Schneider, who designed a variety of meaningful activities and discussion topics in order to gather student feedback on various issues that are important to all of us who are part of the Thompson School District. And the kids certainly rose to the occasion with extremely insightful comments. In particular, what I want to tell you about is an opportunity I had on January 26th. The board was invited to serve as judges for a competition at New Vision Charter School. I was able to attend. The name of the activity that we participated in was Amazing Shake, Work the Room. The board will remember 2 or 3 times that staff and students from New Vision have come to us and have talked to us about what they were learning. What I did that afternoon was to judge the championship round. Students were seeking to qualify for the national competition, which will be held in about a month, and they were awesome. The competition involved rapid-fire interviews. They had the opportunity to demonstrate what the program calls professional skills, including interviewing skills. It's amazing what they were able to do, and they will represent their school and the Thompson School District very well at the national competition. So that concludes our board reports. We'll move now to public participation, agenda item 5.5, which is public comment. And Dawn, would you read the introduction to that?
Because the board wants to hear the viewpoints of the public and also needs to conduct its business in an orderly and efficient manner, it will schedule time during its regular board meetings for brief comments and questions from the public. The board will set a time for public participation prior to the business portion of the meeting. The time for each speaker will be limited to 3 minutes, and each individual will only be recognized once. If there is a large number of speakers, the board may elect to take comments for 1 hour before the business meeting and conclude public comment after the business meeting. Public comments and questions at a regular meeting may deal with any topics related to the board's conduct of the schools. Speakers may offer such criticism of school operations and programs as concerns them, but are encouraged to exercise their speech rights responsibly. Personnel matters will be discussed in executive session. As I call your name, when you start speaking, I'll turn on the timer. The light will turn green. It's right there in the middle. And then when you have 30 seconds left, it'll flash yellow, and when your time is up, it will start beeping at you and turn red. First up, we have Pat Karspeck.
Good evening. I am here to gather your support for maintaining the health of the ash trees at Turner Middle School. Turner has a unique landscape. All of her trees were planted over 100 years ago. They are ash. There are 13 of these large ash trees on Turner property, and these are the only shade trees. There are 5 other small pine trees on the west side. We know now that having a monoculture of any tree species, such as all ash, is not a viable plan, because if one species is hit by a disease or insect specific to that species, they all become at risk at once, and this is the situation at Turner Middle School. The emerald ash borer, or EAB, is a hitchhiker from Asia and is attacking the ash trees along the Front Range. Larimer County and surrounding communities have seen the devastating effect these beetles have on ash. Each beetle lays 60 to 100 eggs every year into the trunk of trees that have not been treated. Because Berthoud also has so many ash trees in the older part of town, the Tree Advisory Committee, and with the town's approval, has started a systematic treatment in which residents pay half and the town matches with those funds. All are administered by the town forester. Each year, bids are received from various licensed contractors to secure the best and lowest price. This program has been very effective, and other cities are envious of our town's support of its trees. If the ash trees at Turner were to be assaulted at Turner with no protection from this system injection, the beetles would quickly move into all the trees, leaving Turner in an untenable position of having no shade trees to cool and calm everyone who uses the grounds. I've lived next to Turner since 1988. I witness yearly how students, teachers, coaches, and parents seek the trees to stand near or under. In the fall and spring, I've seen teachers move their students outside to the grass and enjoy the shade of their outside classroom instructions. Coaches use the shade from the trees to instruct their athletes, cooled from the temporary searing afternoon heat, and the parents always seek them out to put blankets or lawn chairs to watch the students' participation in athletics. The eastern side of the school is lined with 6 large trees under which the buses line up to keep their vehicles cool as they await student pickups. Lastly, these trees have stood the test of time, and I see them as part of the infrastructure of the school, like roofs, equipment, and sidewalks. They are far cheaper to maintain than engineering and building the man-made shade canopies that would need to be erected if these trees were allowed to fail. By the way, to remove a dead ash tree that has succumbed to EAB would cost between $1,500 and $2,000 each. I have been assured by the town board through the tree advisory committee that they support a 50% match in helping to inoculate these trees.
Please
The cost
wrap
to
up.
do this to the district would cost $980.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Will Karsbeck.
He asked me to speak for him. He was also going to speak in support of this. He had to leave.
Unfortunately, we can't do that. I'm so
All right.
sorry. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for asking. I really appreciate it. Brittany Lane.
Hello, I am here speaking from multiple perspectives. First, I'm a mom of a graduate, an 11th grader, and a 2nd grader. I sit on DAC. I've sat on the Educational Equity Board. I sit on the Police Citizen Advisory Board and the Retirement Board. I'm not here speaking on behalf of any of those. I'm just sharing where my perspectives come from. I see data from DAC in relation to the district's strategic education goals. I also see the shortfalls. I see the tardies, the graduation rates, I see attendance rates, I see our high-risk children not succeeding. I also, from my police perspective, I see a lot of mental health issues. I see drug use, homeless, theft, crime, and I see a major strain on our city and hospital resources dealing with adult drug addictions. I think sometimes, as a human, we see things so much that we actually become blind to them. Just like the saying, love is blind. It's become a saying for a reason. I'm sure that we all understand. One thing that I cannot comprehend and rationalize on any level is the youth drug use becoming an acceptable culture that adults have embraced. There seems to be very wide discrepancies to the situation at hand. And if we cared about keeping our kids educated, we would make sure they weren't under the influence of drugs and nicotine on school properties. Did you know that marijuana use in adolescents causes impaired learning and memory for 28 days? This impairment increases with frequent use and is associated with failure to graduate from high school and not attain college degrees. Multiple teens I've spoke to, and I would say most, admit to using marijuana once every 2 weeks, and they assure me that is not nearly as much as their other students. This data comes from the marijuana health info at colorado.gov, and this is a public health statement. Did you know that marijuana also causes 30% of all schizophrenia cases in young men 20 to 30 years old? If they would not have used marijuana in adolescence, they would not have developed this. That comes from the National Institute of Health. Did you know THC is the #1 substance in Colorado teen suicides? That comes from the Colorado Department of Health. I believe we have a duty to educate parents about the effects of teen drug use and how it affects their children's brains while they're being educated. And if we don't take a stand and do this, there is nobody else who's going to. I'm not asking for any political or partisan stance on marijuana use. I'm just asking the board to help encourage admin and staff to enforce the regulations that we already have on the books.
Thank you. David Cook.
Evening. I'm David Cook. I live in Loveland. I'm Colorado Coordinator for the Center for Government Accountability. At a public meeting of this board last month, a redress of grievance under the First Amendment to the Bill of Rights of we citizens was presented to this board. That redress of grievance exemplified the failure of this board to teach in the schools of this district the Christian worldview, morals, ethics, and values as required by federal law. In the ordinance, Section 1 of the United States Legal Code required of every state and every territory in the United States. The result of this is not only against federal law, but is a betrayal of the societal requirements for passing on the knowledge of God to the future generations, as is the purpose of Article 3, Sentence 1 of that law, but also the destruction of the very foundation of our society by the illegal secular worldview, morals, ethics, and values that so plagues our society today. Children who are not taught the truth of God as required by federal law despair. That despair shows itself in child suicides, a direct result of the secular indoctrination of education, as is bullying, child sacrifice in the womb known as abortion, the quest for significance without God of mass murder in schools and other venues. All of these and more caused by that indoctrination that denies the basic law of education to teach the next generation the truth of God as required by federal law. The fact that this board has taken no action and is allowing the destruction of our youth to continue speaks loudly. Evidently, it thinks that if it ignores the law, it will go away, counting on a corrupt judiciary, of course, to protect it. That will not happen. The redress has a 40-day time limit that is almost gone. Attorneys general in this area and in this state at every level have been notified. If they do not act as they are required to do, the rights of the people in the first law of the United States and the Declaration of Independence to alter and abolish may be incurred. That could get very serious. I urge this board to do their duty as required by federal law and institute the legal education that is required of it. Copies of this statement will be at the back, as well as the redress of grievance that this board has been presented to. Thank you.
That concludes public comment.
That concludes public comment. We'll move then to the next part of the agenda, which is action consent items. There are 6 items that are part of action consent. I will read those at this time. 6.1 is the approval of personnel extra duty coaching recommendations. 6.2, approval of expenditures over $50,000. 6.3, approval of gifts and donations. 6.4, approval of Loveland Classical Schools charter renewal. 6.5, approval of second reading of policy JS, student responsible use technology policy. And 6.6, proclamation for National School Counselor Week. At this point, I'll invite Alexandra Lessem to read the gifts and donations that are part of agenda item 6.3.
Thank you. There are 2 donations that we will report this month. The first is $3,309.66. donation to Walt Clark Middle School for STEM grants from Live, Love, Laugh, Believe Incorporated and Rick Moling. The second is a $1,000 donation to TSD Athletics and Activities for Student Leadership Day sponsorship from Gavin Miller and AJ Freeler, and unique recognition in Herf Jones. So thank you to those of you for those donations.
Thank you. Item 6.6 is the proclamation for National School Counselor Week, and Amy will read that proclamation.
Okay. So the National School Counseling Week proclamation. Whereas school counselors are employed in public and private schools to help students reach their full potential, and whereas school counselors are actively committed to helping students explore their abilities, strengths, interests, and talents as these traits relate to career awareness and development, and whereas school counselors help parents focus on ways to further the educational, personal, and social growth of their children, and whereas school counselors work with teachers and other educators to help students explore their potential and set realistic goals for themselves, and whereas school counselors seek to identify and utilize community resources that can enhance and complement comprehensive school counseling programs and help students become productive members of society, and whereas comprehensive developmental school counseling programs are considered an integral part of the educational process that enables all students to achieve success in school. Therefore, the Thompson School District does hereby proclaim February 5th through 9th, 2024 as National School Counseling Week.
All right, thank you, Amy. If any members of the board wish to speak on any issues listed on the consent agenda, these items will be removed from the consent grouping and considered immediately after the consent grouping. Would the board like any of the items removed from action consent? All right. If not, then I'd entertain a motion to approve the action consent items.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion?
I just wanted to take a minute just to commend Loveland Classical Charter Schools. I remember when they first started, and I am impressed at how they have grown and how they serve the school district and how they're an integral part of the district, and that we all benefit from them, and that they are a public school as well, and that school choice matters. And I think it's awesome that we support Loveland Classical Charter and they support the Thompson School District. So I'm very proud to vote for their renewal.
All right. Any other discussion related to any of the 6 items related to action consent? All right. Then let's proceed to the vote. Laura Lee?
Stu Boyd.
Aye.
Denise Chapman.
Aye.
Amy Doran.
Aye.
Dawn Kirk.
Aye.
Barbara Cruz. Alexandra Lessem.
Aye.
Nancy Rumpel.
Aye.
All right. The next item on the agenda is discussion action items. There are no points that are part of that part of the agenda. So we'll move then to discussion items. Or pardon me, to discussion items. Again, there are 7 of them. I'll read those at this point, and then we'll invite the first speaker to come forward. Item 8.1 is the Citizen Mill Advisory Committee update. 8.2, Exceptional Student Services update. 8.3, Professional Development update. 8.4, Air Conditioning and Sustainability update. 8.5, receive and review the arbitrator report pursuant to Section 8.5-5 of the Memorandum of Understanding between the Board of Education and the Thompson Education Association. 8.6, a negotiations update, and 8.7, the Strive 2025 Plan Update. We'll move then to discussion item 8.1, the Citizen Mill Advisory Committee Update. So I'll turn it over to the staff members who will speak to this.
Good evening, Dr. Schaefer, Vice President Boyd.
If I may,
diving
sorry,
in.
the
My
proper,
apologies.
the proper introduction. Thank you, Mr. Vice President, Dr. Schaefer, members of the board, Gordon Jones, Chief Financial Officer for the district. It is my pleasure to introduce to you Andy Stevens, who is the chairperson for the Citizens Mill Levy Override Audit Committee, and he's here to give you an update on the annual report or an annual update as called for by the committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Very excited, as you can tell. So, as Gordon mentioned, my name is Andy Stevens. It is my pleasure to serve as the chair of the CMAC. As part of our mission as a committee, it is our duty to the board to provide an annual update. So, to start, I always like to draw attention to kind of what drives us, and that truly is being aligned with Strive 2025, and specifically in Focus Area 4, which is about the stewardship of resources. So really looking to increase alignment of resources to ensure that we are reflecting the needs of the district, as well as making sure that there is transparency in how these resources are being used. Really, the purpose of the CMAC is to provide an additional layer of review to ensure that the way the district is using the MLO dollars from 2018 are in fact in line with the ballot language and what voters approved. Additionally, we do provide an additional layer of financial audit and ensure, again, that those expenditures and initiatives that Thompson School District staff are proposing are in line with the MLO ballot. As far as our membership is concerned, we are in a state of transition a little bit, if you will. Our committee has 12 members that represents all areas of Thompson School District: Berthoud, Fort Collins, Johnstown, Windsor. We have citizens at large. We have parents of Thompson School District students. And then we also try to identify members that may have a specific skill set, financial backgrounds, things of that nature. Our committee is currently looking for 4 members. So we currently have 8. Really need to get back to capacity and get to 12. So I know Gordon will work with the board to source those candidates, and then ultimately the board approves those candidates, and then they are approved to join our committee so that we get back to capacity there. We meet 3 times a year. We meet in September, we meet in January, and we meet in April. Those months were arrived at because those are really in line with Gordon's team and the financial audits that have to happen. So to ensure that we have access to the greatest amount of information, those 3 months really are great timing for us to meet. As the chair, I work with Gordon and his staff to build the agenda, and then I lead the meetings. And then really, we try to identify various TSD staff members to attend the meetings and provide insight into how the MLO maybe supported a program or their department or any of the ways that the MLO is being used. And then annually, I come to the board and present as the chair. So just kind of what have we done in the past year? Really, we've spent a lot of time analyzing where the revenue is coming from. As you see here on the screen, Larimer County is the lion's share. Almost 97% of our MLO dollars come from Larimer County property taxes. Weld is next in line, and then a very, very small part from Boulder County. In fiscal year 23, we collected almost $21 million as part of the 2018 MLO. So how does that $21 million get spent? In fiscal year 23, almost 80% on salaries and benefits. 12% goes to our charter schools, New Vision and LCS. We also use it to support technology. and then other sorts of curriculum and instructional needs. At our last meeting in January, Tiffany Miller, who's the Director of Curriculum and Instruction, joined us and shared about how new curriculums are sourced, how the MLO supports that work. The SRO program and student safety is almost 2%. And then we do, as a district, have to pay a small fee back to the counties to collect all of the property taxes. So that's less than 1% of our overall MLO. In addition to having staff members come and present, Gordon did an excellent job of presenting to us about the ballot HH measure that was on the ballot in November. Obviously was going to have some pretty profound impact on property tax values in the state of Colorado and how that would impact our MLO as a district. As I mentioned, Tiffany Miller joined us and shared with how curriculum in the district is not only sourced and vetted, but then also how MLO dollars actually help with the procurement of that various curriculums. And then one thing that I didn't know that I learned this year that I think is worth noting is that as a district, we are only allowed to collect 25% of our total PPOR as a district in MLO dollars. And we are getting very close to that number because property tax values in northern Colorado are rising. And so Gordon did a great job of presenting that information to the committee. And I think I can speak for my committee in saying most of us had no idea. And so that was a really good learning for us in the past year. And then ultimately, as the chair, it is my job to make a final recommendation. And I am proud to present to the board tonight that we as a committee agree that Thompson School District is in line with the ballot language and is doing a wonderful job of ensuring that the MLO resources are being used in a way that is in line with that ballot language. So I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any.
All right. Start down here with Denise. Any questions?
Your recruiting process for new members, do you have a plan for that? What does it look like? What kind of candidate would be good?
We do. Gordon, if you want to come, you know it better than I do.
Certainly. So it's very similar to how we recruit for other committees that we have. I will be working with Mike Hausman and the communications team to publish or notice that out to the community seeking volunteers for this committee. We collect those people that express an interest and then would vet those at some level. Typically, then we come back to the board, the president and vice president, I believe, to vet those further, and then bring recommendations to the board for their consideration and approval ultimately.
Alexandra? Nancy?
So I'm new to as the board, I've been to one meeting.
Yeah.
But one question I have, and maybe it's already been addressed in the committee, is the ballot language is, number one bullet is maintaining current or class sizes and pupil-teacher ratios. So it's not in the presentation, but I also know that there doesn't ever seem to be a lot of data surrounding that, and there's been parents that have come before the board regarding that issue. Is there a way we can do reporting so that we can actually show that the mill levy override revenue is supporting the class size teacher-pupil ratio?
I would imagine we could work with Dr. Siebers in the HR department to source some of that data. Not something as a committee that we've necessarily dove into in the past, but certainly doesn't mean it's not something.
Right. I'm asking because I'm looking at the ballot language, and it is one of the things on it.
Gordon, do you want to speak to that?
If I may, just offer one brief comment, or two brief comments perhaps, no more than two. We have had a presentation in the committee previously from HR that talks about the budgeting process, how we go about looking at class size ratios, looking at students' the ratios that are in place were in place at the time the ballot language was adopted and are still in place. Really, as part of every year, part of our budgeting process for staffing FTE, not just on the license side, but on the classified side and APT side to some extent. Also, that the data that's provided to the committee on an annual basis are the transactional level details straight out of our general ledger that show the dollar amounts expended, total dollar amounts received from the MLO, as Andy referenced, and then how those dollars are expended with, again, looking at the percentages that were listed in the presentation earlier to validate that those dollars are being spent on salaries and benefits.
Okay. If in the future you could find a way to maybe include that in the Strive 25, so that some of these parents who come before us, we can direct them and say, here's how we back that up. So, thank
Duly
you.
noted and appreciated.
Amy?
Membership of DAC, how long is your post?
Yeah, good question. So for CMAC, we serve terms in kind of a rotating basis to ensure that we never have a complete, exodus of members, if you will. Some positions, depending upon if you're a citizen at large or representing a specific technical area, could be anywhere between a 2-year term and a 3-year term. I am happy to report that most members that started with CMAC in 2019 are still on the committee. So we do have a high level of continuity, which is great. But again, trying to find those 4 new members.
Dawn?
I just wanted to say thank you for serving and
Appreciate it.
everyone else who has. I know it's volunteer, which is really nice. And also, I appreciate that you're willing to, get into more of those details than the average person maybe wants to, even though they all want to know that somebody's doing it. So thanks for, taking that on to make sure that there is oversight, which is, I appreciate that. I know that these things are complicated, so it's not always easy to look at and to get answers to, as some of the questions tonight even are testing. Do you remember when you looked at this?
Right.
So thank you for that, because I do know it means a lot to people to be able to know that somebody is doing that part, so that we all don't have to dig in line by line all the time.
Sure.
So pass that along, please.
I will. Thanks, Don.
Yeah.
Andy, I don't have any comments or questions that haven't already been asked. Board members, anything else that's occurred to you since it was your turn to pose a question or make a comment? Or Dr. Schaefer, anything you'd like to say? Thank you for the presentation.
Thank you, guys. Have a great night. Thank you.
Item 8.2 is an update from Exceptional Student Services, so I'll invite Dr. Schneider and Laszlo Hunt.
Good evening, Mr. Vice President, members of the board, and Dr. Schaefer. Tonight we bring you an update on our Exceptional Student Services Department, which services IDEA, otherwise known as the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. We have many challenges as well as many celebrations in this work. And so I'm going to introduce to you our Director of Exceptional Student Services, Laszlo Hunt, for more of an update on all of those things.
Good evening, Vice President Boyd, Dr. Schaefer, and members of the board. I'm here to talk about a state of the state for our state of the district for ESS. And in our world of ESS, we are closely connected to the IEP, which Dr. Schneider just talked about. And our IEP connects with all aspects of Strive 2025, as you can see there. First, start with numbers. Fresh off the press, the 2023 numbers are just about official. But this is kind of, we do a December count, and this is where we said our numbers have been pretty stable. You can see there a little bit of fluctuation, but pretty stable the last 3 years. Down a little bit this year, which is okay. That's right where we need to be. A couple celebrations. This is one of my favorite data points. We have indicators that we report to the state, and then the state provides us data back on how we did on those. And indicator 14 is when we get to call our graduates a year later and ask them, how are you doing? And we love this because we get to talk to them and interview them. And that's what you see here is our data from our past graduates. Looking at our percentage here, we have 82% of our students that are reporting that they're meaningfully employed or in a post-secondary program or school. And so the metrics there are super high. We have to hit over 91% to get all the points there, but we're working towards that. So it's a celebration, but also something we will continue to work towards. Another celebration is in our indicators 4, and 9, and 10, which looks at disproportionality. Super important information around, are we identifying students disproportionate based on race or ethnicity, as well as suspension, expulsion, or service in the LRE, or service in our schools. And we report that data, and the good news is we have no reports of disproportionality. I shared this a couple weeks ago at EC12 with the principals, and I chased this for years, and when I was in Estes Park, constantly trying to get some of these. So it's super, super great to see this data and know our equity work and our MTSS work and all the other pieces are in place to help us be able to make sure this data is where it needs to be. And our final is truly a fresh off the press. I haven't had a chance to really get deep into this data, but we're outperforming the state across the board in our elementary numbers. And so I'll have that and bring that later on, but I just was too excited I had to throw it in. I was like, wow, this is great. I mean, it's like really good stuff. So more to come on that, sneak preview. I do want to talk about staffing. I know I've been in front of the board. This is a national and state challenge to secure staffing for special education, as you all know. So I want to give you just a brief snapshot of where we are and some of the efforts that we're working on and just kind of run through that. So here's our numbers, and these are collected. I basically pulled these numbers from October 22, October 23, and then kind of today or in the last couple of weeks. Looking at our certified positions, you can see we are making gains in teachers. That's really good news. And we also are making gains in special service providers, but we're still struggling with psychologists and speech and language. Those are areas that are continue to be a struggle across the nation. Classified, we definitely have some work to do here. We did pick up some of those positions in the fall, but again, lost some. We see a lot of fluctuation. So you'll see in a couple of minutes some of the efforts in partnership with HR that we're putting in place to try to work on this problem and keep our staff. Some other pieces are just some staff that we've been able to secure who support our staff out in the building. So these are folks that are district-wide, but are able to do things that help make it better for our people out in the buildings who speech and language or psychs, who are short-staffed and covering other things. So this really helps across the board, across our system. So from the certified perspective, a couple of endeavors you can see here. Thank you for the base salary move last year. We've seen really great impact from that. We're also looking at PD and what we can do to really help our people stay on top of it, on what they need to be able to do and feel good about their work. Our Grow Our Own Endeavors has been really growing. We have a partnership with Teach Today where we're able to look at alternate pathways. We've had paraprofessionals choose to go into teaching. We've had general ed teachers who shift over to special education, and we're able to help them. We have funds that we could tap into to help make this doable for folks. So that's really a big piece of what's helping us to kind of fill some of those gaps, as well as just looking for ways to improve working conditions. I'm going to talk about our RFP here in a couple minutes. That's a really big move to help get IEPs in a much more easy place for our teachers to be able to work in the technology. Classified, we're continuing to do professional development, really working on onboarding, making sure that our staff, when we hire them, we provide them some training at the beginning, and then utilizing the PD time we have to really build that. We're looking at building like tracks where our paraprofessionals could learn and become specialized in different areas, and then tying that to possible pay raises and those types of things as we build that in for our folks, as well as a RBT, or Registered Behavior Technician, which is a specialized training we can start to offer. And that also allows people to grow in their career here, we're hoping here, but and other places as well. So here's some just big general updates. We're doing a lot of work with PD. You're gonna get a PD update here in a couple of minutes, but our teachers are working closely with the PLC and math in our elementary and secondary, and we're working on specialized types of PDs for our SSPs. Again, we want to keep those people, so we're really asking them, what do you need and how can we help you to be successful? As well as within our teacher group, we have some teachers that work with specific needs. Our ILC teachers, or intensive learning center teachers, are getting specialized training and curriculum for their students. We are also looking at a partnership, and this is another kind of sneak preview, creating another transition track, working in partnership with Banner Health McKee to be able to provide students the opportunity to go into the medical field and become employed in a one-year internship program, helping the medical field, because they're also short-staffed, as well as our students to be able to get successful, meaningful employment after they leave school. And again, just kind of that continuing to get alignment. FastBridge is something we brought on board, and we're really wanting our teachers to get a nice alignment around progress monitoring across the district. Super excited about our elementary effective needs program. We got to sit in yesterday. They were doing a full day work on this with consultants from the CDE, and really looking at getting collaboration with the people who are in the field, our teachers, our paras, our principals, and helping them to evaluate their program, and then build action planning for what we want elementary effective needs to look like. Very difficult population of students to work with, and so we really want to think about how do we make sustainable practices there. The other piece here, I'll talk a little bit more about what we did engage in an on-site with the CDE, and I'll hit that in a slide coming up. Again, training specialized training for our ILC teachers in our Unique to You learning just happened a couple days ago as well. And the RFP is out for our new IEP and 504 software system. We're looking at a selection in the spring, and then we'll be working on an adoption timeline. I'm sure I'll come back here and share some of that work with you as we get into that. Crisis Prevention Institute, or CPI, is a high-level training that we offer for our teachers and our paras and other staff who are needing to be able to do verbal de-escalation, and as well as keeping students and themselves safe. We've increased our staff there, added 2 additional trainers, and we're able to really cycle through and do monthly refreshers and full training, so people don't go very long without having that training updated. That's been a really big success over this past year. As well as the development of onboarding days, again, for our certified or classified staff that are beginning in the middle of the year. They don't all start in August. So how do we help them if they're starting in October or February to get up to speed? And also looking at training across the district. So I did some training with transportation. We haven't done a lot with nutrition yet, but that's on the table, as well as the mini lessons, which are delivered to our teaching staff on a weekly basis. So helping build our teaching staff up around IEP development and working with students with disabilities. And again, can't say enough about behavior training. We have a lot of behavior training. So we're looking at our really bringing some support in from outside with the CDE to do updated functional behavior and behavior improvement planning training here in April. Future work, we're going to continue our program evaluation, as well as adopt our new software, and those 2 pieces will be something that we move into next year. We'll also want to evaluate our secondary effective needs. Right now the focus is on the elementary classrooms, but we definitely need to do that, continue that work up through our middle school and high school. Continue with our differentiated training, as well as Patty and I have been working on training ideas for our principals, because they need special ed training too. And so we're working on some ideas there. Our facilitated onsite, I'll just talk about this really briefly. We had a 2-day onsite with the Department of Ed. And from that, we looked at stakeholder input, or we looked at everything. We looked at our IEPs, and we are building an action plan from that for how we can improve processes across the district. It was required by the state. Every district's going to go through it over the next 5 years. We got to be lucky year 1. So we got to experience that, and we're also, a lot of learning, a lot of great work came out of that. So I look forward to sharing more about that as we develop our action plan. And then I want to end on our SEAC. Last year, we spent a lot of time repurposing and revisioning and working on our SEAC operating procedures and getting our how we're going to work together focused on. And then this year we moved into recruitment. And so a little plug, go to get involved on our website. If you're interested, we're looking for parents, community members who want to advise me as the director around what work looks like in the district and what we might be able to do to improve outcomes for students. Sorry, I feel like it was like fire hose there. Questions?
Right. Thank you, Laszlo. I'll start with Alexandra this time. Question?
I do have a question. What is the Unique to You learning system?
So Unique to You learning system is when we have students that are identified with significant cognitive disabilities and autism, those are the two categories that typically fall into. They may not be able to access content standards like other students. So what this is it's a software program, but it also includes lesson planning and data collection for our teachers to utilize to teach alternate standards for students with significant disabilities. So it's a small population of students in our district, but it's a very impacted, and it's something that it really used well can help our teachers with the workload of planning for varying needs within their classroom.
Right. Does it cover all grade levels?
It does.
Okay.
And transition, yeah.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. Nancy?
I have two different sets of questions, but they're two different themes, and so I'll do the first one and then. First, I know that working in this particular area is really difficult while rewarding, and you're also dealing with a lot of parents who are very, very passionate about making sure that their kids get what they need. And so I know that sometimes there might be some different friction, which is why I think the SEAC committee is a really good idea to help get more parents involved on that. And to that point, what I would like to understand is, how is the SEAC structured? Who's the chair? Who are the voting members? And how do you become a voting member?
A great question. And that was a lot of the work we did last year. So we do have an executive committee. It's still a fairly small group. Those people are identified as the executive committee. Our chair stepped down in the fall, and actually Dawn has been filling that role on our SEAC committee. As we recruit, we look to, originally we had two chairs. We had a chair and a co-chair, so we would look to get back to that. Basically, anyone's welcome to come, and everyone's a member is kind of what we believe. If someone wants to move into an exec committee and become a voting member of the SEAC, that person then just reaches out, and we have a process within our operating procedures for how that looks and what steps they need to take. But we definitely are encouraging people to attend those meetings, and we have some regular attenders now that I'm imagining we'll probably be asking to become more involved at the exec team level. Did I answer your question?
How many people are on or are supposed to be on the executive?
Like 12. If you look at all the representation, really ideally, like we want early childhood. I mean, there's a pretty wide range. I would say right now we have 4 that are pretty regular exec team members that attend. And then our overall attendance has been, we're tracking that, but we've been about 15 to 17 typically.
And then the last question is, so is the chair a voting member?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
SEAC is not a statutorily required committee. And so the rules, if you will, that you are hearing from, the structure of it that you are hearing from Laszlo is designed by Thompson School District. It is a voluntary committee. The state encourages it, but the state does not provide us with the structure about membership and voting and how the committee is set up and how it runs.
All right. Does that take care of your questions, Nancy?
Yeah, I was just curious, especially since my understanding had always been that as board members, we're supposed to always just be liaisons and not a voting member of a committee, especially since, and I've heard Dr. Schaefer say this, and I agree with him in that, regardless of what hat we're wearing, wherever we are, people don't see us they see us only as a board member or as a superintendent.
And we do, I failed to mention, we do have a board liaison. Barb Cruz was our board liaison that attended, and now it's Amy. So Dawn attends as a parent.
she may attend, but she's seen as a board.
All right, Amy?
Yeah, I was gonna say that. Thank you. That was like almost drinking from a fire hose.
Sorry.
That was a lot. But, good work. My question is about PD for Gen Ed staff, working with students from ESS. What does that look like? And what's the future of that?
So it's a great question. Work collectively, the PLC work, I felt like was the first, from my perspective, first opportunity that we've had to really start to cross those lines. It's difficult because special education staff need a lot of other stuff, but we're identifying some needs within our professional development world of what kind of pieces can be available for our general ed staff. I don't have a succinct answer to say how's that looking as much as just we are definitely aware of that need. That's where the beginning working with the principals, I feel like is a good place to start because they are the leaders in their buildings. And so helping them identify what their staff needs, then we can then support behind that. So that's really the idea there with working with principals, to kind of start that conversation at a deeper level. Good question.
Dawn?
So similarly, I was going to ask about CPI for everyone, and how long have we been doing CPI training for anyone?
So CPI is offered to anyone. We prioritize staff that obviously are going to need it. We have staff that we require to do that training, but we do offer it during the PD days. We offer it for classified as well. So it's available. We do have general education teachers and principals that take that training. We don't have it's not something that the whole district's trained in or anything like that, but we do offer it as much as we can within our capacity of how we provide the training.
All right. First, Laszlo, thank you for incorporating answers to the questions that I asked. I appreciate that you... Pardon? Oh, I'm sorry, Denise.
I was like, whoa, there's a big one coming.
Yeah. I actually have a list with check marks, and I neglected to look at my list. So if while I'm asking my 2 or 3 questions, if you'd like to interrupt me, you have my permission to do that. All right. So as I said, thank you for incorporating answers to my questions. I'm impressed with the ongoing level of support of your staff that you offer. And what I heard you say is that as needs arise, you look for support for members of the special education staff. And I think that's awesome. When I was looking at the celebrations, there's obviously a number of things to celebrate. Knowing that there's such a shortage of teachers in general and special education teachers and staff in particular, I noticed that Thompson School District at this point has no teacher vacancies in special education, no aide vacancies in special education. And I know there are several in the paraprofessional realm, and I know you're addressing that, but congratulations when the nation is facing this shortage that we are not right now. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Anyone else have a comment that you'd like to make before we move on to the next? Go ahead. Go ahead, Nancy.
The second part that I had has to do with, because again, I understand this is can be difficult. Parents are really passionate. And so in that regards, how many, and I don't even know how to ask this, how many mediations have occurred so far this year? And my understanding is the mediation is when a parent disagrees with either not getting an IEP or doesn't think it's being executed correctly. How many of those have we had this year, and what can we as a school district do to help prevent that or at least reduce it?
Just to clarify, when you say that, you mean like a formal mediation that's
Yeah.
going through the state of
I
Colorado?
don't, again, I
Yeah.
don't know, I'm not certain if
No,
I'm using the right word.
Because
but-
we do a lot of informal mediation, as you can imagine, in a lot of IEP meetings. Dispute resolution is a process that is available to all parents with students with disabilities, and mediation is a tool within that. And we have, to answer your question, I don't know the exact number. I'm just gonna, don't quote me on this, but I would say we've had 5 that I'm aware of this school year. And that's counting the ones that are upcoming. I have one that's upcoming. Not all mediations are because of a complaint. The one that I have upcoming is a mediation where a parent just reached out and said, we really want a third-party person to come in and help facilitate a meeting. And that's great. And that's free of charge to the district. It's a service that's available through the state. And oftentimes it's a good thing because we're able to step back and really work with parents and really try to problem solve difficult situations. And I would say all the mediations that we've been involved with this year have been successful. The outcomes have been successful for both the district and the families that process.
So that would mean that for this year, our legal fees costs have been pretty minimal because we've figured out a way to work with the families and keep that down.
Yes, the mediation helps to keep, to reduce the possibility of going to a formal complaint, which is much more expensive.
Is there a way we need to make parents more aware about this third party available to them?
We do share that with families. It's in their, the rights that we give them. And when there's something, there's always, and I work closely with the department around this. When a family's having a struggle with something, they'll call sometimes, and the first piece that'll happen is the department will call me and say, have you spoke to this parent? And I'm like, no, actually I haven't. And oftentimes it's just a way for that parent to kind of reach out and get help for what they're trying to solve. Sometimes they don't even go to a mediation. It just helps to kind of lift up, hey, this is something that maybe the parent's concerned about and doesn't know how to respond or who to reach out to.
Okay, well, thank you. I know it's a difficult job, but I know it's also rewarding for you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any additional questions from board members? All right, thank you, Laszlo. All right, moving to discussion item 8.3, dealing with professional development. Dr. Siebers.
Mr. Vice President, School Board, Dr. Schaefer, Bill Siebers, Chief Human Resources Officer. I have the privilege to introduce Keely Guerin, who is our Professional Development Director. So let's, round of applause. No, I'm kidding.
Good evening, Dr. Schaefer, Vice President Boyd, members of the school board. Tonight we are here to share about some updates with professional development, but specifically how it ties to focus area number 3, human talent, 3.1 and 3.2. I have also embedded answers of my questions or the questions I received in the presentation. So
thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you for your questions. Tonight the board will gain a better understanding of the completion data of our current coursework from July 1st, 2023 through January 31st, 2024. Have a review of our district PD days so far. We just completed our 5th one yesterday, so that's really exciting. Give you an update on a new cohort of our Aspiring Leadership Program, and then we'll close with some celebrations and some thank yous. So our PD data, our course completion data is ongoing. I don't know that there's ever a real end point because there's continuous learning, continuous courses being offered. We track ongoing meetings for professional learning and relicensure for our leaders. We offer ongoing classes in the evenings. There is constant course proposals coming in. I work directly with TEA and Andy Chrisman on approving courses for Thompson Incentive Credit, which is TIC, that employees can use towards column changes. And so it is always moving. And so I wish I would have had time to pull more data for you since I submitted this a month ago. I can easily say we have probably completed another 15,000 hours on top of that. If you think about yesterday, we held well over 1,000 employees engaging in a full day of PED, so that's licensed and classified. You multiply how many attended times 7.5 hours. You can see where the hours are getting there. These hours, a combination of courses offered for each employee group, knowing that many of these classes can be attended by multiple employee groups. So as Laszlo mentioned, CPI would be one of those courses that is open to any employee group, prioritized for some. We are really trying to move towards enhancing and marketing some of our classified learning sessions to our APT staff. At our January day, we had multiple directors and coordinators attending some of the PD that we were offering to classified staff. So that is an area that we can grow in and market to as well. So just wanted to provide those hours. It's exciting. Some staff probably have much more than others. We're also being very strategic about how we are naming courses. There's a lot of requirements coming up for teachers with relicensure in the next few years. And so we're working really hard now to ensure that when that requirement hits for any individual educator, when they look back on their transcripts with Thompson, even if they have left us, it will help ensure that they're meeting those requirements and reduce future work. So I was asked to talk a little bit about the Infinite Game before I go into an overview of what some of our days look like. So the Infinite Game is a book. I brought the book for you. That was the basis of our district-wide keynote on August 8th by Dr. Joseph Kim. So he gave us a virtual keynote from Seoul, Korea, and presented on the Infinite Game. And we focused on some specific pieces of that. A quote from Dr. Kim was, in just one lifetime, you can change not only your world, but the world around you and after. So to me, that really just captures the essence of what an infinite game is. And really, we're talking about an infinite mindset. So the infinite game and having an infinite mindset can kind of be understood by like the work that we're doing today for the outcomes that we may not get to see. And specifically, work around having an infinite mindset or the work on an infinite game leads to sustaining our drive, improving performance, and it enhances relationships. Like finite games are like sports, right? There's a beginning and end, there's rules, somebody wins and loses. That finite mindset that focuses on winning and losing, the winning doesn't maintain motivation and eventually can dry out. That infinite mindset is what we're doing today that will impact generations from now. And so when I really think about an infinite mindset or an infinite game, education, of course, is one. Like the collective achievements of our district and Strive is a great example of what an infinite game is. The collective achievements of each division weigh far more than an individual or a department. So it's a great way to really think about Strive and A Portrait of a Graduate really being an essence of infinite game or mindset. So I hope that helps. So let me know if you have more questions. At large, our elementary schools are focusing on math. So as Laszlo mentioned, really looking at math differentiating. They're learning math instruction based off of grade level. Math is taught through developmental pieces. And so I wanted to add on to one of the questions about what are we doing for the general education level to support special education. And so one of the best things that we can do is focus on high quality tier 1 instruction. That is how we close the gaps and ensure that the tiered supports that we're offering match. So when we have a really, really strong tier 1, we are able to step in and provide ongoing supports as needed. And so using data and metrics and things like that to be able to identify what that is. So the work that we're doing through the math instruction and All Learners Network, as well as what we're doing at secondary. So the work that we're doing on the professional learning communities with our Solution Tree associates is also in the same pieces. So like really focusing on what do we want students to know and be able to do. That also very much supports special education because we need to very much understand that before we start adding intervention on top of that. So we just finished our last district PD day yesterday. Our classified staff we've been really focused on making sure we're offering multiple options, multiple sessions, and through the last year, we've been able to increase relationships across the divisions and departments. More and more people are proposing sessions and offering those, which has been the increase of some APT staff having interest in those sessions. So like I said, that is an area that we are looking to grow. So looking at, we'll go to the next slide. Thanks, Lauralee. We've been offering an Aspiring Leadership program for the last couple years, and so we just offered our first cohort to classified staff. That has been a request from classified staff, is to gain leadership experience. And so here's an example of the courses that we offered and who delivered those. So really letting members of of each staff group have access to our district leaders so that they can provide even just transparency of what they're looking for and to help align that and equip them to move into positions in the future that they're interested in. We will begin our third cohort for our APT and licensed staff next month, so that's really exciting. So those applications are open right now. And so we'll go to some celebrations. One really exciting thing is that there is truly so many positive testimonials. I had to do this in like an 8 font to fit it on here. I just wanted to make sure there was a wide variety from each of our days. So I won't read through them. I did try to bold some of the pieces that really stood out. At large, I would definitely say extremely positive feedback for the trainers from the All Learners Network. They have been working very closely with Learning Services, our curriculum, our director of curriculum, with elementary, and just really aligning what that looks like. And as we're going through in our district walkthroughs, you can see the changes. They're giving strategies that can be applied tomorrow. So really thinking about what's the smallest thing that we can do to have the greatest impact. Plus, how do we ensure student engagement? How do we ensure every student has the opportunity to share their knowledge and is accountable for their learning? So it's really exciting to see the transition this year. So, and also very positive feedback from participants. Another focus celebration has been the alignment. So participants are acknowledging the vertical and horizontal alignment that is happening. So sometimes it's hard to step out and join others and really connect and be vulnerable, but the work that we're doing in PLCs is allowing that, and then allowing each other to share strategies. Really exciting there. Lastly, I'll go actually to my next slide here, is one of the quotes on the previous page was, the availability and willingness of district admin staff being present and interactive with classified staff is amazing. And so I wanted to thank Dr. Schaefer. I know your days are so packed, and on some of our PD days, you have student advisories, and we're talking about like minutes before you have to leave. And so I thank you, but the impact is great. Our classified staff group very much appreciates when our district leaders are there. And just engaging and having conversations and being present, they feel valued. And so thank you again for making that happen on that day. And really a special thanks to all the divisions, because of course, it would not happen without each of them. And I'm very thankful for all those that are surrounding me here, because their teams made sure yesterday went off without a hitch. So questions?
All right. Nancy, I'll start with you this time.
I don't really have a question, just I really like the way that this is laid out. I couldn't believe the number of hours when I read it, but I also really like the classified track for training, because they have so many different roles that they play. Some are supervisors, some might want to be, and so I think this really helps them see that there is a real long-term future for them here in the district. And so I think, that's a really great program that you've started.
Amy.
Yeah, thanks.
Dawn.
Also not a question, but two things I really want to point out. One is I nearly cheered when you said great tier 1 teaching. I was like, that was just a nice way to kind of, I'm glad you were the follow-up act, because I love hearing that. I will tell you that I mentioned something about universal design in a community meeting a few weeks ago, and I had a line of people saying, wait, what?
What is that?
What is that? And why aren't we doing that everywhere, right? It's not just education. So I'm really grateful that that was top of your mind to add that piece and that you're advocating for that in the work you do. And then I really wanted to call out the fact that I don't know if I've ever seen love PD days from people when given the opportunity to give open comments. That's pretty priceless.
Yeah.
So great job making
And so,
that happen.
and I'll kind of speak to that. Our January 3rd day for licensed staff is building based, and it is work on their SUIP that aligns to our DUIP, and that is one of our more favored days because it's a reset and an opportunity to really look at what are some things that we need to make some changes on really quickly. And now those schools have been working together for a semester, and they get to kind of come back and have that reset. But it really was a great day. So some of those are definitely from that January 3rd day. So thanks for noticing that.
Denise.
No questions for me.
Alexandra.
Do the PLCs take place just at a particular building, or are there opportunities for people from other schools to work together on those?
Great question. All secondary staff, as well as our elementary specials and elective staff, have participated in the PLC training. Additionally, that includes all special service providers, our ESS teachers, 612 ESS. And so what we did at the beginning was learn what that PLC process means for each individual job alike. So what does that mean for me as a literacy teacher, 612? What does that mean for me as a special service provider like school counselor? And what does that mean for me as a special education teacher? We wanted to make sure that everybody really understood that process. And there's been a large request of PD that is specific to those jobs. And so as Laszlo had talked about too, is the differentiation that we've also provided. So everyone has either access to the All Learners Network or the PLCs. Our elementaries have been engaged in the PLC process much longer, but having the elementaries attend the PLCs and help to understand what that looks like for them, especially if they're a singleton in their building. How do I engage in a meaningful PLC group at my school that will support those collective goals? I don't know if that helps, but 612 at large, everyone was doing it. We had 8 trainers here at multiple locations.
Anything else? All right. Just a comment. Our professional development has grown to be so very robust, and it now extends in that robust fashion across all the different employee categories. So congratulations to you and your staff and the support that you're receiving from Learning Services and the other parts of the district to make that happen, because professional development makes us better.
Yeah.
So thank you, Keely.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, moving on to item 8.4, air conditioning sustainability update. Todd.
Good evening, Vice President Boyd, School Board, and Dr. Schaefer, Todd Piccone, Chief Operations Officer. Tonight, I have 2 colleagues that are going to take us through this presentation. So Kristen Batigi, Director of Operations, and Melissa Carroll, Manager of our Energy and Resources. So tonight, they'll provide an update on the air conditioning piece that we've talked about quite a bit. The board approved some money, so we have a plan to move forward with that. And then also just an update on our sustainability and our work with the Colorado Energy Resource Office, or Energy Office. So I will turn it over to Kristen.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Vice President, members of the board, Dr. Schaefer. I'm Kristen Batigi, Director of Operations, and thanks so much for having us here tonight to speak to you both about sustainability as well as air conditioning. These both have a great connection to Strive 2025. Our work with the Sustainability Management Plan, there's a lot of focus on school student engagement, including field trips, projects, and presentations, and a lot of that interaction, as well as we look at resources. So making sure we're putting our resources in the right places
for student learning, as well as being mindful of how we're using those resources. Here's the update. So our partial cooling that was approved back in October, our sustainability management plan, and then an update on the Colorado Energy Office and performance contract that we spoke about last fall as well. So to start with the partial air conditioning update. So this was approved prior, October of 2023, $2 million to look at how we can make an impact in our schools. These were bond contingency dollars. So you can see the table right here, which looks at, we honed in on schools that have no air conditioning, and by no air conditioning, mainly we're looking at classrooms. So some have, a computer lab. Most of our schools have a computer lab that is air conditioned, but as we look further out into the schools, some are partially air conditioned. So those were the ones that we really honed in on, and looking at where we can make that biggest student impact. So where can all students within those schools be impacted by cooled areas. So providing cooling for schools with minimal or no AC, and then reviewing most impact. And also this provides spaces so that students can be kind of scheduled into those areas to give those kind of cool breaks, where we know $2 million isn't going to do the whole district, but it can make a great impact in a number of schools. So still working on this scope as we fine tune with our consultants. So I'm going to turn it over to Melissa, and then we're going to kind of tag team back and forth a little bit as we talk about sustainability management plan and energy performance contract. I also do just want to note, these two things together. I know we've spoken to you kind of separately about these, and it just kind of shows how we are looking comprehensively at our building systems and making sure that we're being, again, responsible with those resources. So Melissa.
Mr. Vice President, members of the board, Dr. Schaefer, Melissa Carroll, Resource Energy Manager. Again, I want to remind you all of our wonderful sustainability management plan that we approved back in 2021, looking at that 5-year goal, various goals in terms of energy, water, and waste. We are continuing to make progress on these goals, but as we discussed in our past presentation, a lot of these are going to require larger projects and efforts to actually make these things happen, especially for things like renewable energy. So right now, current sustainability efforts that are in addition to the things that we've been working on previously, we still have our systematic and behavioral ones. Those behavioral ones, again, just being those ones where we're interacting with all of the students, doing things like 7th grade water field trips, where the students have been able to go to tour both the water and wastewater treatment plants, which have been really fun for them. We've been doing lots of different school challenges, energy challenges, sustainability presentations, and all of that is also being supported by our systematic efforts as well. The big ones that I want to point out that are new since our last presentation are we have received multiple grants for electric vehicles and electric vehicles chargers. We have received for 3 short electric buses, fully funded, which is really exciting, as well as chargers for those buses, chargers for public charging here at admin. We'll be receiving some for here at admin as well as transportation center. And then also looking at electric fleet vehicles, which will be really cool as well. And then on top of that, we are kind of wrapping it all together with an energy performance contract, which I'll pass it back over to Kristen to kind of dive into some of the updates on that.
Great. So a big driver for our energy performance contract is to look at how we can implement solar in our school district, continuing to look at that. So we've been continuing to work through this process. It's a model to fund capital improvements by using future cost savings. So some great examples, upgrading to LED lighting. The return on investment for something like that is pretty quick and can also, investing those savings ahead of time into those projects. So the process is supported by the Colorado Energy Office, which is huge, as they're helping to provide that guarantee for those energy savings that we're hoping to realize. Schneider Electric was selected through a competitive RFP. We talked about this last time. And right now we're in the midst of the investment grade audit. So there's a timeline on here. We're continuing to work through that process. We're at the 50% mark and are looking, I'll show a little bit more of a detailed scope of what we're looking at and kind of project costs and things like that. And then the idea is to come back in the fall with a proposed project. So that investment grade audit, I'm not going to read through all of this, but this is just basically information about that. The fee is set by the Colorado Energy Office, a little bit of information of how we selected. We didn't do the full district. We wanted to kind of hone in on some sites. We looked at 8 sites for that, just to see how this process worked and what that would do for Thompson. So in those schools that we investigated, these are the proposed projects. So you can see the schools are along the top, and then along the right-hand side, there's lighting, water, and solar. So if there's a green square, that's where we're looking at implementing those projects. So LEDs, again, like I said, that's kind of a no-brainer. That really makes a big impact, not only on the classroom space, but also on our utility bills. It's just that upfront cost in order to do that. Also looking at exterior LEDs, some water projects as well to reduce our water use, and then also solar, so a ground mount solar array. So it's on the ground as opposed to on the roof, and we're looking at that at Walt Clark Middle School. So there's a lot of information here. But looking at this, it shows what each of those projects are, what that cost is, and what we would anticipate in the first year of energy and operations and maintenance savings. And then on the far right of that first table, it shows the percentage of those savings. On the bottom, it shows what that looks like because this would be financed. So again, it's financed based on the expected savings from these projects, which is backed by Schneider. So in the audience here. So we're looking at a project of about $5 million. Again, we're only at 50% of this process. So these numbers will likely change as we get more fine-tuned into exactly what this looks like. But this allows us to start looking at making decisions and kind of honing in on that scope. So scope savings that we anticipate over the lifespan of this, which is 20 years, is just over $7 million. Right now is a great time to invest in solar, and so we would expect a solar deduction, a tax credit of $800,000 based on that project that we would be doing at Walt Clark. So then that brings our total scope savings up to just shy of $8 million. With that financing piece, assuming 4.5 interest rate, all that information is on there, the total loan payment would be $7.7 million. So we would see a net improvement overall. We would expect a net gain overall. So this is utility costs that would be averted, if that makes sense. And also, not only are we looking at the energy performance contract, but also there are a number of other funding opportunities out there that our team has continued to look at and spend time investing in. Also with Schneider as our consultant, they are helping us to review some of these to see if they're a good fit. I'm not going to read through all of these. Some of them we've already taken advantage of. Some of them we're looking into. Some, there's matches. There's different pieces within that. So Schneider's helping us to really dive into these to make sure that we're leveraging our dollars to the maximum amount possible and taking advantage of all of those opportunities that we can. So next steps, like I said, coming back this fall with a proposed project for the energy performance contract on this, receive those cost savings and calculations, and then get started on the projects and those improvements in our schools. In addition, there is measurement and verification that continues after that installment so that we can continue to make sure that we're realizing those savings and that guarantee. Thank you. Any questions?
Amy, I'll start with you this time.
Is there, with the electric buses, is there any specific extra training that the bus drivers have to have, or safety training, or, I don't know, just.
So, yes, on both. So both
Okay.
on the mechanic side, there's a whole nother certification and level there. But the driver's side too, because they do react just a little
Right.
different. But Yeah, we're slowly working that culture into, that department and others to make some of that move. But yeah, they've toured plants, seen how they operate, seen how you work on them. And that's, yeah, it's been part of this process.
And are any of the electric buses wheelchair accessible?
Good way. I'll have to double check. I don't recall. I know they're the smaller ones. I don't recall what the actual. Yeah, the Type A. I don't know if we had that on there or not. I'll double check though.
You can get back to me.
I will.
Thanks.
Anything else, Amy?
No.
All right, sure. Dawn.
I got nothing, thanks.
Denise?
This was fascinating. Thank you for coming and sharing. I'd like to know, have you evaluated the entire district? So if you were to continue this sort of work, I mean, what would be the ultimate savings if, this one goes successfully and you start a next one?
Sure. So can't say what that, the ultimate savings would be for the district. We really want to take it in phases. So some of this, we know that the lighting is a big piece of how we kind of make it work. If that makes sense, because we can't have our loan amount more than our anticipated savings. So taking this in pieces where we can make sure that those are a match. We looked at a lot of different scope, including HVAC, controls, things like that, and just kind of identifying which pieces could work within that to make the financing work. So the idea would be then to expand that out to further schools, and again, grouping those projects together, so it's not just doing the lighting, it's making those other improvements as well. Does that answer your question? It's a little vague, but.
Alexandra? Nancy?
I'm all for the LED lighting savings, and the low flow fixtures, and anything that helps us, conserve, reduce waste, be more efficient. You already know, I am not a fan of the solar or the electric vehicles. I just don't know that they have certain applications that they work really well in, but I also understand how solar panels are made and the rare earth minerals, and those come from other countries where typically children are producing those, and I'm not a fan of that. I believe that we should make sure we don't pollute and that we should be conservative and conserve. But the solar part of this, I'm not ever going to be a supporter of. But I appreciate everything else. It all makes great sense. Thank you.
All right. Pardon? Okay. I appreciate the completeness of your presentation. It was short, but you really checked a lot of boxes in doing that. And I was glad to have you include the funding sources, the part dealing with financing, because that, of course, is very important in regard to paying for all the different things that we're seeking to do to make our schools more energy efficient and taking care of our environment, et cetera. So fine presentation, and keep us posted as time goes on, particularly as more funding sources might become available. Thank you, Kristen.
Thank you.
And Melissa. All right, we'll move now to item 8.5, receive and review the arbitrator report pursuant to section 8.5-5 of the Memorandum of Understanding between the Board of Education and the Thompson Education Association. Dr. Siebers.
Mr. Vice President, School Board, Dr. Schaefer, Bill Siebers, Chief Human Resources Officer. So the purpose of this discussion is to recommend to the Board of Education to receive and review the arbitrator report pursuant to section 8-5-5 of the MOU between the Board of Education and the Thompson Education Association. So on December 7th, a hearing took place. The arbitrator report was written on January 19th. And then the board meeting today is the 21st because the last regular board meeting was January 17th. So you received the report last week through an email, and then you got a hand copy delivered today. So 8.5 talks about the grievance procedures. Step 5, at the next regular board meeting after the receipt of the report of the arbitrator, the board will review the report. No public release may be made until such review. Within 5 days of the board's review of the arbitrator report, either party may request to meet to discuss the arbitrator's report. And then section I is the board shall accept or reject in whole or in part the report of the arbitrator no later than 30 days after meeting referred to the above. So basically what I'm trying to tell you is just keeping in compliance. At the next study session, March 6th, we'll have a discussion about the acceptance or rejection of the report. So we'll have more of a discussion then. And then at the regular board meeting on March 27th, you would be voting on accepting or rejecting. So March 27th, I got permission to extend the 30-day deadline because the board doesn't meet during spring break, so it's the week after spring break. So there was acceptance to extend the deadline. But Part D of the report conclusion, I won't read all of that, but I'll read the last sentence. The grievances placement at step 12 did not violate the MOU, Board of Education policy, or the Equal Pay for Equal Work Act. The grievance should therefore be denied. And then the recommendation from the arbitrator is, on the basis of the above facts and discussion, the arbitrator makes the following recommendation, that the grievance be denied.
All right. Dawn, I'll begin with you this time.
No questions.
Denise? Alexandra?
So just to clarify, we're not like discussing it today. Today, we're just saying, yes, we
Correct.
got it, we'll discuss it.
Yep, it's just acknowledging that you received and reviewed the report.
Okay, yes.
Nancy? Amy? I have no questions either, Bill. Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to item 8.6, which is negotiations.
Mr. Vice
It's
President,
you
School Board,
again.
Dr. Schaefer.
You want to turn
it's-
around in the circle? So
It's me again.
Yeah.
So I have the honor to call up Andy Chrisman, who's our TA president, who does the presentations with me. So thank you, board, for giving us the opportunity to give an update on negotiations. So focus area 3, human talent, 3.4, investigate areas and compensation and benefits so that TSD is competitive. The presentation will connect to Strive 2025 about human talent for the upcoming negotiations. So the discussion items tonight will be the highlights of 23-24 negotiations agreement, the interest-based model for negotiations, and review negotiations dates and timeline, and negotiations team. So the idea with a new board member, Denise Chapman, coming on board, we wanted to give kind of a highlight of what we agreed last year moving forward. So for the agreements, the highlights for 23-24 negotiations agreements, which we're pretty proud, and we thank the board for their support. For compensation, steps and columns, and then add 6,000 to each cell based on the fall 23 salary schedules A and B, with a minimum of a starting salary of 50,000 starting salary, which is great. Right, the presentation about SPED teachers and that being fully hired right now, we believe there's a correlation between that and starting salary. An adjustment for Appendix K to accept another year of service, adjust hard-to-fill positions to accept up to Step 16, and then add middle school unified extra duty contract and 4% increase to extra duty salary schedule. So that was a lot of great work that we did last year. And then ESS working conditions, procedures on special education, class size, caseload. And then for time, we have the elementary PLC, professional learning communities. Time will be held on 2 late start Wednesdays per month. The first Wednesday of each month will be designated for PLCs, and the second date will be decided through the building's late start PD plan. Teams are not precluded from choosing to engage in PLC work during their plan time. And then the PCC charge that we have in the 23-24 school year, PCC will inventory the current state of district trends in undesired behavior/discipline and procedures, reinforce best practices, and identify areas for improvement. PCC shall make possible recommendations in time for the 25-26 negotiation team. So this is the second year that will be, next year will be the second year to continue that conversation, assessing what supports the district would need.
Mr. Vice President, members of the board, I'm Andy Chrisman, President of the Thompson Education Association. I'm a music teacher in the district. Our district negotiations team uses what we call the interspace strategy process model for negotiations. It's a consensus-based model where we go through the story of what happened up until this became a critical question. What are our interests in solving problems? As in, if we are able to resolve the issue, what will the outcome be? What is the why behind what we want to solve? Then we look at we have a brainstorming session where we say, how could we do this? We filter it through some criteria, some legal, some practical, and then we start pulling options together into different, we call them straw designs. And then the most important thing, and this is where we are right now in our cycle, is the implementation. Dr. Siebers is fond of saying that every solution creates other problems. So we solve things and then we say, okay, well, what did we solve? What did we create? And how do we keep refining and make things better? Okay? We are in the second year of a 2-year cycle, which means we're going to be negotiating compensation annually, but we're also going to, we can discuss up to 2 related issues to compensation as well. Our 2+2 Oversight Committee, which is Dr. Siebers and myself, and Kayla Steele, our lead negotiator, and Melissa Schneider, are going to be talking tomorrow, actually, to talk about the facilitation of the negotiations to culminate in a large group meeting. I believe we actually have 2 large group meetings this year. 3. Okay. It says 1 in the MOU, but we can exceed. Okay. And those are the members of our negotiations team. And I think Patty Givens Patty Verdon is joining us because Charlie Carter left us. Other than that, the team is staying largely unchanged. Those are our dates and times. They are open to the public as per Prop 104, and are all, of course, invited to attend, and the 2 of us can answer any questions.
All right, questions? Denise, I'll begin with you.
No questions.
Alexandra? Amy? Dawn?
Ditto.
And I don't have any questions either.
Yes, thank you, board. 2 presentations, no questions.
All right. All right. Brings us to the last item of discussion, which is the Strive 2025 Strategic Plan Update.
So good evening, Vice President Boyd and members of the board. I will kick us off and then be joined by members of my cabinet. Strive 2025 is our strategic plan. It anchors our work. It provides direction for the district, and we align our priorities with everything in the strategic plan. Hopefully, you see that every presentation we bring before you, we are very clear and deliberate in demonstrating that the work we do ties in directly with our strategic plan. And so it permeates the district in all facets, as it should, as a strategic plan should. As we've done over the last 4 years, it's hard to believe we're in 2024 and this is Strive 2025, we've provided you with periodic updates. We've usually started the year with where we're at, we've ended the year with where we've been, and now we're just giving you a mid-year update on Strive 2025. I will point out to you, as well as members of the community, Mike Hausman and his team, as well as senior leadership, has really worked to update a dashboard for you. I think it's actually quite well done, and it is on our website, so it has its own unique link. The board has asked for not only updated data, but also just kind of a progress on how we are in terms of achieving the data. And so we created a 5-point scale to demonstrate where we are, and you'll see if you visit that site, there are some areas we're making exceptional progress, other areas we're making progress, and other areas that we continue to work on, as one would imagine with a strategic plan. Strive 2025 is divided up into 4 areas, and you can see them listed here. And now I'm going to turn this over to members of my team to take us through celebrations as well as what we're currently working on in these areas.
Thank you, Dr. Schaefer. Mr. Vice President and members of the board, I'll take the student achievement area. I know that I had the pleasure of meeting with you for 2+2 recently and was able to share with you some mid-year data that showed that we are making strides in both growth and in achievement in our mid-year iReady. So for math and for reading, you were able to see that the movement is going in the right direction. So that was a celebration that we had. Again, you've heard this at a previous presentation, but our graduation rates being 91.1%, we are ecstatic over that. We are also ecstatic over the fact that we are closing gaps, which is part of our student achievement area in Strive 2025, is to close those disparities between students, and we have certainly made strides in that area too. Our third grade literacy, having all students being able to read at grade level in third grade, we have definitely seen an uptick in our third grade literacy and our elementary school literacy with our science of reading that we have implemented in our professional development. We are also working on being able to show exemplary practices across the district. So we've had one of our very first, since this was even written, one of our very first video presentations and like a podcast situation with one of our teachers who's a second grade teacher who is doing amazing work with her learners as second grade readers. We had an interview with her, and we have that out for people to kind of take a look at. Of course, it's just in-house, and it's for teachers to be able to learn from other teachers and principals to be able to learn from other teachers as well. In progress, we continue to do professional learning. You heard a lot from our Director of Professional Development tonight, but we have a lot of continued work in math pedagogy and in English language arts, as well as some new curriculum that will be coming up next year in certain grade levels. So you'll be able to hear more about that in coming presentations. Also in progress is our continued professional development around educator effectiveness for our evaluators. So our principals each month meet. We have been studying deeply into the teacher rubric for evaluating Colorado's teachers given to us by the state. We dive into all 4 of those areas one at a time in those meetings to be able to up our growth-producing feedback abilities, as well as being able to tie expectations for our leaders to their own rubrics. So with that, I am going to hand it off to an update on Area 2.
Thank you, Melissa. All right, Area 2, supportive and inclusive culture. So just want to kind of go over some of the really key celebrations that we're really proud of here this past year, and also talk to you a little bit about some of the stuff that's in process. So first of all, we've talked a lot about the need for expanded interpretation and translation here in the district, and so this has been a key focus for us this past year. We've expanded our interpretation and translation services provided by the district team. We were fortunate to be able to do that in part by adding an additional FTE into the team, which has greatly expanded our ability to provide that service with families and to our schools, and to be flexible in providing that when it works good for them. In addition, there's been expansion to our co-responder program under Todd's team, and they've had over 400 contacts, as you can see, since the beginning of this program. So this has been a very successful program and a very successful rollout for us, and it's something that we're very proud of, and it's a program that also continues to grow and to provide a great service for our district, or excuse me, our students and our families. Our small group community forums, that has grown a lot as well. These, when I say that, I'm referring to the forums that Dr. Schaefer and a couple of you will attend, where we meet with a small group, for example, the Lago Vista neighborhood, or meeting with a commission or a committee at the city level, et cetera. Basically trying to set up a small environment where people can have a conversation about some of the things that are on their mind, learn a little bit more about the district, and build some one-on-one relationships in that ways. And then also additional staff and student listening sessions. So Dr. Schaefer has been, actually this week, has been working with his student advisory committee. We've been getting a lot of great input from that. We also have another round of staff listening sessions that will be coming up also here in the coming weeks, where we'll be soliciting feedback from staff members. And similar to the small group forums, just providing people a comfortable space to talk about what's on their mind, and so that we can use that to kind of help guide some of our plans moving forward. In process, we're working to solidify those processes for our American Sign Language support. So I would say this is one of the key areas where we've seen a lot of growth. I think there's a lot of need that's out there that's still untapped, and so we're working to expand that as much as we can, to work with contractors to identify qualified ASL interpreters that can help us for parent-teacher conferences and other parent meetings that come up in that sense. And then just an ongoing engagement of our entire TSD community around culture and climate. We want to make sure that this is a comfortable and safe space for each of our students and staff members and families. And so continuing to do all that we can to ask them questions about how things are going and create a comfort level where people feel that they can work with us both at the school level and at the district level as well. So next up, Area 3 with human talent.
So this is pretty exciting because there's a direct correlation of the support of the board with the next three bullets. So over 7 years, we increased classified salaries by 64%. So that's huge, 64%. So the support from the board through negotiations and just the focus on employees that the board has had has been amazing. So over 7 years, the same for licensed staff, salaries increased by 40%, and then over 7 years, increased APT salaries by 31%. So that's pretty exciting and a huge recognition for all the work that has taken place to make that happen. And then the inaugural class, Expiring Leaders, that Keely talked about today for classified staff, and there's just huge feedback from classified staff as far as being valued and helping them achieve their goals and their dreams. And then in process, we're working on recruiting and retention strategies to continue being a destination district, and that's for all three employee groups, and focusing on, not so much about the salaries, about, well, what's the employee experience? And having a focus around that, and then, continuing that conversation in all three employee groups. So we're pretty excited what the future looks like for TSD. We are definitely the talk of the town, I have to tell you. Like, people are wanting to come to TSD, so we can see it by our hiring pools right now. So at this time, I have the honor to introduce Gordon Jones, as if he needs any introduction.
That can be both a blessing and a curse. Good evening again, board. It's my privilege of reporting on Area 4 of the Strive 2025 Strategic Plan, Stewardship of Resources. And while I would say that in the business services world, the focus on stewardship of resources is called Thursday in our world, or Monday. We are paying the vendors on a weekly basis. We are paying staff on a monthly basis. We are answering questions about all the what-if scenarios, a variety of different things. But that said, there's still a few celebrations to point out here in Area 4 Stewardship of Resources. First is the 2018 bond projects. We are certainly at the back end of those projects, but it's very satisfying from a financial perspective to be able to look at the data that we have, the projects that have been accomplished, have the coordination and facilitation between the business services team and the bond team, the operations team, that coming at it from 2 or 3 different angles, we're arriving at the same information. So obviously, with a concern from my perspective is, as we get to the end of the bond projects, how much money do we have left, and how many projects do we have left on the plate to get done? And I'm pleased to report just recently, within the last couple weeks, we've had joint meetings with multiple people in the organization and have a good feel for what those figures are and what's left or remaining. The added level of scrutiny on this is the work of the CBOC, or the Citizens Bond Oversight Committee. That group has been instrumental and been involved at quite honestly, a deeper level than I anticipated them being involved, and that's not a bad thing. With the work they're doing in understanding the projects and helping track those, helping staff track those. In coordination with that is the development of a long-range master plan. Again, with conversations with the cross-functional areas, 3,000 plus items that we have on the list of potential needs, current needs, immediate needs, maybe needs. That whole process is again, takes place on a daily basis, but without that planning to anticipate what could be coming in the future, I think that would be a disservice to the taxpayers of the district. Continuing involvement of multiple budget managers that are involved in the budgeting process. We are well underway with the budget process. Still plenty of room for input and feedback and adjustments and changes that we may need to make. But the budget is not being done in a vacuum. It's being done by people that are working in each one of those areas through the coordination of the respective cabinet members, review at the cabinet level, obviously keeping the board apprised as we go. We're at the very beginning of that process for bringing the board's feedback in and interpretation and questions and interests that they might have, but a very collaborative effort across the district. And then one of the highlights of the internship programs, apprenticeship programs, is really in our ITS area. You've heard reports recently of the internship program, enlisting the assistance of students in this program, involving them, and not just using their skills and their unique abilities that they have to help in this area, but then giving them a career track that could ultimately lead and is leading to employment opportunities for those same students. So again, all of those items, examples of stewardship of resources, and really beyond that, the other items that are called for in focus area 4. In process, everything, every day is in process. It seems I get asked on a daily basis, what if we did this? What is the impact from a financial perspective? So every day there's questions that the business services team is addressing or receiving and trying to craft solutions, or potential solutions at least. But one of those is the potential bond initiative that's being talked about in master planning, that the board has been updated on, that we are conducting staff forums on right now to give them an idea of what possibilities might be. As you can imagine, in the ever-changing world that we are at the state level, with legislation that's in place, from property taxation to assessed valuation, both of those go hand in hand. But what are those options, and really being able to be prepared to answer the questions of what does it mean for me as a typical homeowner, a typical business owner within Thompson School District boundaries. So those are some of the updates for celebrations and items that are underway for focus area 4. I believe with that, my colleagues on the cabinet would be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Alexandra, starting with you.
So I have a question for you, Gordon, that I don't know is entirely relevant to this, but it's something I've been wondering about, what's the rationale for, you had mentioned that employees are paid monthly. Why are they paid monthly rather than biweekly, as many people are?
Because.
Thank you. That is a wonderful, wonderful answer. and you don't have to necessarily answer now. Like I said, I've just sort of been wondering about it, and it came to mind.
Those questions that I mentioned earlier about what if we paid weekly? What if we paid biweekly, monthly? I will profess that I don't have a clear-cut answer, but I'm sure our HR team may have an idea there. I believe it is standard practice across the state, across the 178 districts. Make it clear, I'm not saying that all 178 pay monthly. It could have to do with the contract nature of our positions that we have. I'm at a loss for a good reason. So the para-retirement program looks at years of service, but years of service are broken down into months of service. That's the incremental unit that is used for determining when somebody exits their employment career and enters their retirement career or retirement phase of their lives, that the calculations are based on a monthly basis.
It's just interesting, and part of the reason I ask is I happen to have a student who's one of the IT apprentices and has gotten into a bit of a financial pickle. And so was wondering, they had asked me, sort of that question as well. And I thinking about it as far as, I'm sure there's rationale for it, but as far as like recruitment and retention and things like that, I don't know if that's a detriment to some people. It might be, I don't know.
It's something that's out there. Certainly when you see at a drive-through window that apply now paid daily for some positions. I will say from a manpower and efficiency standpoint, doing the process once a month is helpful, just from an efficiency standpoint, rather than having to replicate that 2 or 3 or 4 times a month.
So Alexandra, perhaps your son could contact Gordon for a loan? Is that a possibility, Gordon?
That's an HR function.
Oh. Bill, he'll be in touch with you then. All right, Nancy?
I would just add, as someone who has to do payroll, and I have far fewer employees, it could be quite cumbersome to try to add new employees, terminate, start this, stop that, even bi-weekly. And I do have to do it weekly, so, but I get the money management part. Overall, the Strive 2025, I really, the dashboard's very helpful. I like the little emerging and on track. As we start to think about the next one, I think it'd be really helpful if this time we came up with goals that were really measurable, not subjective, that we can really point to data. And then, of course, I'd love to see the third grade reading, I'd love to really see it get up there. But I think it's great, the dashboard that you guys have put together. It really is helpful.
Amy?
Nothing specific, but just, I appreciate all the work that all departments are doing and how everything that we do, every presentation that we see, that we have that as at our core, and that's just the compass that, how we navigate. So thank you.
Dawn?
Ditto.
Yes, thank you all. I don't have any questions.
All right. I'll conclude then. I noticed significant celebrations in all 4 areas. That's exciting. I'm also glad that the presentation included the in-process section in each of the 4. It's important that we have goals. I feel like we're doing a good job. We can always do a better job, and I think knowing that the staff has identified goals, areas in which improvement is still necessary is important. So that comment is not directed just to Gordon, but to all of you, including our superintendent. The celebrating is, as I said, important, but it's also equally important that we're looking down the road and seeing in what areas and in what places we can be more effective. So thank you. All right, that concludes the discussion items. Item 9 on the agenda is written reports. There are 9 written reports that are part of the file. Does the board have any requests for information, either for the study session coming up in a couple of weeks, or for a regular board meeting, or for some other time or topic? Hearing nothing, I'm going to declare the meeting adjourned.